I know where everyone's head is suddenly at. That took a turn.
Giannis. Giannis.
Well, everybody.
Front court star.
If you're like,
Giannis.
if you're like you and me, we're all doing the same thing. Who are these front court stars? She's like, well, I'm not telling.
Yeah,
and it's like when somebody had a crush on you in 7th grade. Somebody's got a crush on you. Oh, who is it? I'm not telling.
Right.
Well, what good does that do anybody?
No good.
You got to tell us. Who are the front court stars?
Front court star.
That could become available.
Maybe on the move. The first name I thought of was Giannis. And you looked at me like...
I don't think it's Giannis.
No, but you looked at me and you're like, who do you think? And I tried to mouth it.
Yeah, no, I knew what... I knew.
Okay.
I got it, but I'm... No, my response was not, I don't know what you're saying. My response was, no, it can't be that.
Right.
Giannis is going to... Like, she's sitting here today assuming the availability of a front court star, and the Warriors would have the necessary assets to make it happen.
That's the part that I'm curious about is, and she said teams like Moses Moody and, Pods, of course,
and
great rookie year. And, you do have the draft picks, not this year, but future years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if teams like Moses, and she actually mentioned that the Warriors probably wouldn't want to trade Kuminga, and that was good to hear. So
she said they would fight like hell, to not trade Jonathan Kuminga.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm still in that mode. Let's go ahead and slip and fall into the offseason conversation for just a second.
Yeah,
she brought it up.
Yeah.
Well,
I asked it because we won't talk to her.
Yes.
We only talk to her once a month.
Your instincts were 1,000% correct, but that idea that she was so firm that the Warriors 100% have the assets to get into that conversation without including Kuminga is very, very interesting. The idea that not only are teams interested in the likes of Moody and Podziemski, but yes, forget the future draft picks.
Right.
And if you do start to follow the breadcrumbs, you can see that the Warriors are still all in on the remainder of Steph Curry's career. From Draymond's contract to Steve Kerr's, could Chris Paul be someone where you pick up the option and then trade? Or is Chris Paul someone you could bring back at a greatly reduced number?
Right.
There are ways to do this, and it's interesting to note that she thinks the Warriors are already of that mindset, sort of irregardless of what happens this week or next.
Yeah.
I find that comforting, to be honest with you. I really do.
It's comforting, but it's also a little bit upsetting, perhaps.
Why?
Because it may involve, players that you like or players that you have grown accustomed to. It's not as easy as, Podziemski and Moody and picks, and here comes the star. You may have to part with Clay, or you may have to part with other players who you don't want to part with. And if you're a Wiggins fan, if you're a Wiggins lover, then maybe if Wiggins gets dealt, that becomes upsetting to you as well. I personally wouldn't be heartbroken if Wiggins got traded, but you're not going to be able to make sweeping changes without some losses to some of your core.
I'm Googling.
Front court stars.
I'm Googling hard. Yeah. Who is it that could be available?
Well, I'm thinking, and I'm looking at the Eastern Conference standings top to bottom, and I get to New York at number 2, and Jerome Randall is a guy who maybe, but I don't think that he's the fit for this Warrior team. For me, if you're going to bring in a front court star, it's got to be somebody who's a little bit more dynamic, I think, in the offense that the Warriors run.
Yeah, I mean, again, she's talking about front court big names.
Yeah.
Bleacher Report did a thing about a month ago. They're like, okay, now that the trade deadline's gone, here's some offseason trade possibilities. And they've got the Warriors sending Andrew Wiggins to the Raptors along with Looney and GP2 and a future pick for center Jakob Poeltl. This is one of my favorite names.
Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah, Poeltl. Anyway, and Bruce Brown. Okay, that's front court. That's a trade. Could it make you better? Sure, but that's not That's not what Ramona was talking about.
No, she's talking about a
She's
star.
talking about big
Jakob
names.
Poeltl is not a front-court star.
Front-court star. Available. Who is it?
I don't know.
Because she's like, some people might be available. I mean, sure, there's the LeBron thing. Okay, high-level players that could ask for a deal. I mean, okay, NBA executive whispers on big names who could ask for a trade this offseason. Kevin Durant.
Yep.
Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see where Minnesota goes.
Joel Embiid.
New Orleans has got to make a decision between Zion and Brandon Ingram. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Those are some big names.
Those are big names, yeah.
I mean, Drew Holiday has now been locked up. The free agency area is not what we're talking about here because they're not going to have the dollars to go out and do Pascal Siakam or anything like that. Tyrese Maxey's a restricted free agent. He's also not a front court player. I don't know. Because when you hear it from someone like Ramona that like is so tapped in on these conversations, and then the fact that she wouldn't really expand on them, you're talking about some players who will either demand or request, or there's like some discord within the ranks that we may well not know about yet. I mean, the Durant one is super interesting just because it's Kevin Durant, number one. And number two, maybe one of the more under-discussed things in the Western Conference, why the hell do the Suns stink?
Yeah.
Like, and they don't stink, but they should be better.
Yes.
They should be better than they are. And so will they look to shuffle their own deck? Quite possibly. That'd be a big name.
KD. I mean, KD back, reunited, and it feels so good.
There you go.
It's possible. But
Phoenix wants Moses Moody and Brandon Pajemski and 27 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Wiggins. I don't know.
Well, and I don't know. You make it interesting about the Chris Paul contract part of it, because if you're going to trade for a big name with a big salary, you're going to have to send some big salary out.
No doubt.
As well. And so if you're going to bring in Kevin Durant, who I don't have his exact number, but he probably makes about $45 million a year or so.
Probably at least that.
So you would have to include a dead money Chris Paul as a part of that, at least.
Kevin Durant's number next season is $49.856 million, and is also locked up for 25-26 at 53.2.
Right. So that's not happening. We're not doing that as far as being below the second threshold, the second apron.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea.
A name that I thought of as we were having this conversation is Lauri Markkanen, somebody who I was thinking about at the deadline.
Well, that would be fantastic. Right.
And he's making 18 flat next year,
okay.
18 million.
There it is.
So
Wiggins and a pick for Markkanen, done.
Sure. Wiggins, Moody, Pajemski, and a pick. Although the money wouldn't work there but I think that Wiggins has got to be a part of anything that you're going to do.
Well, I do believe, again, as we slip and fall into our offseason talk.
Trying not to.
No, but I do believe, just put it this way, it is likely that the Golden State Warriors have internally decided that this town ain't big enough for Wiggins and Kuminga.
Right.
That's probably true. And if you really do want to clear the way for Jonathan Kuminga to be the star that many of us think that he can be, and every time we talk to anyone on the inside, you'll hear them say, God, they would just despise the idea of trading Jonathan Kuminga. Would they do it if somebody offered them something that was just like, oh my God, we cannot refuse this? You never have to close the door to anything. You can't do that. But the Warriors do not want to trade Jonathan Kuminga. They just don't want to do it. And they shouldn't want to do it. And so if they are going to continue to feel what it looks like they feel right now, which is that Wiggins and Kuminga are probably, to some degree, in one another's way.
Yeah.
You got to clear one of them out, especially since, look, it didn't work. Like, the most important thing that Ramona Shelburne just said to us on the eve of the postseason, it didn't work. So file that, especially for those, even if they go on a run.
Right.
Whatever, like, you can't, they're not, Bob Fitzgerald said to us last week, they're not going to be stupid enough to be like we are. We're stupid. We're fans.
Right.
We're just sitting here being like, okay, let's find out tomorrow night if this Warrior team works or not. Well, that's not how they're running their organization. They're not going to base this on 48 minutes in Sacramento. They have already decided you are the 10 seed. That's not good enough. ... It didn't work.
Right.
So
right.
The whole idea of will this playoff run stop them from making big changes or force them to make big changes? I think that decision has already been made.
Agreed.
Next year will look very different.
No doubt. And I think back to the discussion we had about Kyle Shanahan and Steve Wilkes. And when Kyle Shanahan came out publicly and said he can't do that, he knows he can't do that, at that point, it was the kiss in the cheek from Michael Corleone to Fredo, and that was going to be it for Steve Wilkes. And even if they would have won the Super Bowl, I think that they would have parted. It would have been maybe more amicable, but the parting would have happened nonetheless. And I look at this Warrior season, and yeah, you can look at 7 different things. Well, you know, the tragic loss of Decky and what that did, and Draymond missing 20 games due to suspension, and Chris Paul broke his hand, and Andrew missed 5 or so games with his absence. Well, you know, if none of that would have happened, could we have been a 50-win team? You bet your sweet bacon we could have been. But at the end of it, you weren't, and you're the 10 seed.
You really got my attention there with sweet bacon.
Yeah.
Or actually kind of distracted me. It's
I'm
hard
sorry.
to listen to what someone else is saying when they say bacon.
And I have found...
My mind goes to a completely different place.
In this weight loss journey, and I'm down 20.
Dude, you look fantastic.
Thank you. I feel great.
You're in this little vortex right now where you're like a baby, where you look different every day. Like, I just saw you on Thursday.
Right.
And I walked in and I'm like, oh my God, You're down another 6.
Pretty funny.
Or so, are you?
Yeah, down 3 since Thursday.
Since Thursday?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just your outfit. You looked different.
And it's my face. I'm down at least 1 jowl.
In the face.
Maybe a jowl and a half. I might be down a jowl and a half. In the face. Dude, you can't start getting giggly. It's only Monday.
Oh, we're fine.
But yeah, but I'm finding that my references now are more about food than ever before.
Yeah, you're comfortable with it. You can say bacon, but not eat it.
No, but think about it all day.
Like we talked about our donut bet, and you're going to bring in donuts, and you will have the willpower to not eat them.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, we're going to find out. And I'm going to try and do that this week. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'm going to try and do that.
That'd be great.
Well, and I normally wait for the morale to be low, but the morale around our show and our station's been so good for so long.
We'll see what happens tomorrow night in Sacramento.
Yeah, good call. Maybe I'll bring Wednesday doughs. When the Warriors, next time the Warriors lose, I'll bring doughs the next day.
Oh, so they're not coming for weeks.
Well, I mean, they might lose a game in the first round.
They could.
So
they could lose next week. They just can't lose this week.
Next Warrior loss, I'll bring donuts.